I've always joked, and my friends or associates that know me say, man, what you do, it's not that hard, right? You make it look easy. And that's part of the problem is if you make it look too easy, it looks easy across the board.
Welcome to the Hustle Up podcast, guys. My name is Clint.
Jonathan.
And today we're sitting down with a good friend, Mr. Lee Heisman. Now, I've gotten the pleasure to know Lee, or get to know Lee, over the last 1.5 to 2 years. And I know him a lot as a person, but we're going to be getting to know some about his business and his personal life. Lee runs Savant, which does, is it IT consulting?
Sure. Managed services. We are pretty much people's IT companies so that they can operate their business and function with their particular products.
Awesome. He is he's a personal guru. He's a guide. He's into nutrition, so health nut, also working out, fitness nut. And he brought, this is one of the first time we've had a guest bring in notes, and he brought in 13 things mentally strong people do not do, as well as 7 things that they do.
7 things that, and I take these notes, Clint, because as we talk, I'm always learning. All right, always learning. 7 ways that mentally strong people handle stress. So first, determine if you're a mentally strong person, or what are the guidelines that we can help you become more mentally strong. And then once you become that person, what are the things that you do to handle stress? Because stress is always out there.
Well, let's just jump into that. Yeah. And I'm sure your story will come to light as we progress through this, but that's amazing. What do you quantify a mentally strong person as? How do I look at it and say, if I balance this out of mental strength and non-mental strength, then I am more mentally strong than not?
So I'm not sure how much you can quantify it, but I'll read off some of a few of the 13 items that I read and learned about. So number 1, mentally strong people, they do not waste time feeling sorry for themselves. Do you guys concur with that?
Absolutely, yeah.
They don't give away their power. And what I mean by that is they're not going to be pushed around, but they're also going to be respectful of others. They don't shy away from change. How scary is change?
It depends who you are.
Sure, but change is terrifying, even for
the
me.
majority of the population is like that's a huge fear. If not that, then public speaking. So absolutely, that's up there in fears.
100%. And this has changed for me today, gentlemen. Coming up, I'm 48, soon to be 49 years old, and I have that nationally syndicated podcast called The Shrimp Tank, and I'm usually on your side of the mic. So I am rarely put on this side. So this has changed for me, and it's uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable, but I jump right in because you guys are driving it.
What's different? What so far from what you feel and what you see? What's different than being on the interviewer and interviewee side?
It's a lot easier asking questions, and I feel less like I'm not as megalomaniacal. Now it's all about me, and I'm sharing information. So I feel this tremendous responsibility for anybody listening or watching for them to walk away with something of value.
Today it's the Lee Heisman Show.
It's very uncomfortable. Yeah. Very uncomfortable. Number 4. They don't focus on things that they can't control. 5, they don't worry about pleasing everyone. 6, they don't fear taking calculated risks. They don't dwell on the past. They don't make the same mistakes over and over, learning from your mistakes. They don't resent other people's success. I'll be honest, as I get older and I surround myself with very high-end CEOs and quality individuals, even your last guest, Dave Wallens, I just saw him yesterday, personal good friend. When I've gotten to this point where most of the people that I associate with are CEOs, the level of success that they attain and I attain, we truly are happy for our friends and coworkers, where a lot of people have jealousy. So I've noticed that to be a very big difference. I kind of avoid any success because I'm always concerned there's a level of jealousy with it. But with really good friends and highly successful people, you'll find they're really, truly happy for your success.
I've seen a meme like that recently, and it was like it said something to the effect, if you don't have friends that appreciate your success, you don't have friends.
That's exactly right. So it takes a select group, and it's not that people don't want to, it's that they have to be successful in their life, happy in their life for them to appreciate yours.
Yeah. Another thing I want to comment real quick. I don't know what number it was, but
we were on. Go ahead.
It was the one on dwelling on the past.
Oh, yes, that was, they don't dwell on the past. You're exactly right.
You said that, but you also said learn from your mistakes. And I wanted to point out that the important note from that is the difference in that is that emotional detachment. The emotional detachment is how you don't dwell on your past, but you can objectively look at it and see what you did wrong and learn from your mistakes.
100%.
And since you mentioned both of those kind of like right after each other. I wanted to point out to anyone listening that, as someone who's accomplished, you understand that difference, but that is the difference, is that emotional detachment, when you can learn from something and not get upset by it, is the difference between dwelling on the past and learning from mistakes.
It's brilliant. Well put. My gosh, you guys know what you're doing here. Just a few more. They don't give up after the first failure.
Yeah.
And most of the time, it is the first failure, second failure, third failure. People don't see this. I speak of this all the time. And I can elaborate on every point, but I don't want to take over the conversation regarding this. But, people see your success and they see, look how lucky you were, right? Look, you landed that client, or you landed this job, or you received a large bonus, or a successful incident.
Right.
But they don't see the 99 other failure incidents that you're grinding out every day. So I've always joked, and my friends or associates that know me say, man, what you do, it's not that hard, right? You make it look easy. And that's part of the problem, is if you make it look too easy, it looks easy across the board. They don't fear alone time. They do not fear alone time. They don't feel the world owes them anything, and they don't expect immediate results.
Wow.
So I find that to be the case as well, because nothing comes fast, and if it comes fast, it's usually not going to stay very long.
The quicker it comes out, the quicker it goes in.
That's
Other way around.
That's
Quicker.
what she said.
Yeah.
Sorry. Is this a parent-approved
No.
show? Okay.
For any parents listening,
apologies.
this is a joke.
Very good.
No, this is that's a great list to start off with, and that's something that's super important. Is if we think the mindset is 80% of the battle. And one thing that you mentioned, I think it was one of your last bullet points, and this will be my last question, because you said a lot of these points are interesting. I think it was. Do you mind?
Oh, please take it.
It was like that third to last one.
Don't feel the world owes them anything. Don't expect results overnight. Don't fear alone time. This shit is not random.
Yeah. Shout out young Gerald. You said that you do something repetitively and it becomes easier for you.
Yes.
And then other people take notice of that and think it's that easy.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like, to me, it could come run into managerial issues. Does that, you see what I'm asking? Like, how would you handle that? Like, if someone's like, let's say you've been doing a certain thing for a long period of time, and you are the Steve Jobs, or not a good example, but you are the guy who does that, and that's why you're the CEO of the company.
Sure.
Right? Does that make sense? And it may look so easy, and do employees ever get disgruntled or anything? Like, do you ever run into managerial issues of people? I don't know what I'm trying to phrase.
No. It's a great question. I'll elaborate for you if I may.
Please, yeah.
So just give a little history. My previous job, I moved down to Georgia nearly 24 years ago and started out of an apartment and opened up a commercial printing company.
Okay.
And within a matter of 10 years, we had 130 employees doing $20 million of revenue, and actually started right on Franklin Road across the street over here.
Wow.
Yeah, so wonderful, right around the corner here in the hood. I joke about that, but it's changed with the soccer stadium down the street.
Yeah.
But this is my old stomping grounds. And when you grow a business over 10 years, when you're 24, 25 years old, and you have 130 employees, and you're doing $20 million in revenue, I hate to say, I always say environment. I don't use the word culture. You won't catch me saying culture. It's unfortunately abused, I think, sometimes. So I'll say environment. It's just my own little pet peeve. I also will never say at the end of the day. Do you ever hear people say at the end of the day? And now, anybody listening out there, apologize for being so cruel, but if I hear someone say at the end of the day, I tend to say, oh, you're just saying that to fill space. But you don't know what you're going to say next. So I'm very precise with words and thoughts. And if someone's saying, at the end of the day, and, oh, it's the catchphrase, and whatever you're going to say, you've said to 500 other people. So I'm not a fan of catchphrases or canned responses, I guess you could say. I don't want the audience applauding that's a canned response and you push a button. You want a real audience applauding.
Yeah.
So go back to the printing company. I started that when you have 120, 130 employees. The juxtaposition of that company taught me a lot. And the reason I share that is I would say that I had 25% white-collar employees and 75% blue-collar employees.
Wow.
So when you start juxtaposing blue-collar, people making as little as minimum wage for handwork, up to managing and running commercial printing presses, then you have white-collar employees. You have an environment of people that just have never really seen eye to eye, and they usually don't work well together. So you have to get that unification. You have to get that environment where people can rely on each other and start to trust each other.
Right.
When I was fortunate enough many years ago to go through mergers and acquisitions, M&A, and I sold that business. And because I used to outsource my IT services, my technology services, I said, I know everything I don't like about being a client for IT or tech. It's kind of like when you go to the auto mechanic and they're
Right.
like, lift up the hood and they tell you 75 things you need to get done. I'm not mechanical, so I'm like, oh, I hope you're telling me the right thing. And I didn't like feeling that way. So I opened up an IT company that says, okay, we're going to be your managed service provider. We're not going to nickel and dime you by the hour. And as my partner and I grew that out of a basement, I always joke and reference Rocky. I think it was Rocky 3 or Rocky 4 when he had to go back to the grind. This is years ago, my era, Rocky Balboa. And he went back into the old school, and he went to the old gym, not the pretty gym. And we went back into my current business partner's basement and started this business with 2 people.
Let's go.
And now we're at about 60 people at the company, and it's grown. But going back to your environment question in terms of management, now that our company's grown, we have about 13 managers at the company. And people always think, well, how are you running the business? Are you getting new clients? Are you doing operations? I would say that 90% of my time is focusing on training our management team.
Okay.
I've been working intimately for the past decade at my company trying to make mini me's. When I say mini me's, we don't put our pinky on our face and say $1 million, but I want people to have the same mentality as me. Right. And the managers have to have that, the sense of urgency, the way they handle things, the way they deal with their employees. So the only way that you can scale your business is to make mini versions of yourself, your thought process, your mentality, and distribute it to your managers. And now they're going to put their own twist on it. Yeah. You want them to. They need to own it. But you're really fueling them and giving them the Kool-Aid in which to drink so they can run the business the way you want them to.
You want to replicate yourself.
As much as I can, and again, versions of myself, right? Versions. I don't know, goodness, I'm embarrassing myself with dating myself, but there was a movie years ago called Multiplicity. It's embarrassing. No one in this room knows it, but Michael Keaton was in it, and he started replicating himself. He was a father and a businessman, and because he only had so many pieces in time for himself, he was able to replicate himself. But the more copies that he made, the less capable those copies were. So they weren't perfect copies. One was a copy of a challenged, and it was a challenged version of himself. Maybe one didn't talk very well. So the more copies he made, the less quality the copy was. It was a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. Not just a copy of himself. So I'm trying not to let my management team train themselves. I want to influence my direct management team, and then they can transition that mentality through the whole organization.
So one of the
that was a long answer. I'm sorry about that.
It nailed it right on the head. That was exactly
I think you were thinking
that was like it was that. Cool. Yeah, exactly.
One of the segments at Shrimp Tank is the hot or not, and I remember it. A lot of people, how do you feel about partnerships? I know you just said you entered into one, and what is the division of work like within your partnership?
Fair. So this is a very polarizing topic. I have many people that say, only yourself. You want to have 51%, you want to have control. And I can't argue with that because I see where partnerships do go south, and when you're 50-50 and it's a stalemate, and you truly are not intimate with your partner and or partners, you could ruin an entire organization if there's not one decision maker. So in one breath, I absolutely agree with that. But in the other breath, I have done the complete opposite. So I actually can support both ends of it. I understand the 51%. I understand the ultimate decision making. But don't forget, the true test of your character is what? When you have power.
Right.
When you have power, that is a true test of someone's character. And I teach my managers that, which is, look, you're the boss right now. You don't have to dictate your opinion. You want to open up the questions and listen to your staff. I have always had partnerships where I was 50-50. So on paper and everything I'm telling you, I've done quite the opposite. But here's the reason behind it. Number one, if I'm in a boat with someone, I want to know, hey, we're both chained together. If one of us goes over, we're both going over. So we want to hold each other up. No question about it. So there's a fine line of who you choose as a partner. I can go both ways. But I have always been, I like 50-50 personally. I like that equality because we're both in it together. No one's looking over each other's shoulder going, I know we're partners, but you're kind of the boss because you have more. That can be challenging. Number two, and most importantly regarding the partnerships and the 50-50 is find a partner that offsets your personality. If I had a partner that was identical to myself in all facets, why would I need that partner? It wouldn't work.
Right.
We'd both be moving a million miles an hour. We both have limited patience. We both would not know when to shut up. We would both be too loquacious, and it would be highly inefficient.
Right.
I probably could get a list from my 3 daughters and my wife to say all the other bad things about me. But my current business partner has a very patient personality.
Right.
He looks at things in a different angle. All of my partners have always had different mentalities, but we tend to blend it together. It's like a recipe, right? If you have 8 ingredients in a meal, if they're all the same ingredients, The meal's not going to taste great.
Yeah.
But the real deliciousness of a meal is all the different courses and all the different ingredients and just the right amounts. And if you can do that, you have an amazing meal. And you do that to a business, you have an amazing business.
That was a great analogy.
I just made that one up.
No, that was perfect.
Yeah,
On the
I've
fly.
never used that
Perfect.
one before. I've never used that before.
So
It's a canned response.
So I
He uses that all the time.
I've never. Now, Clint, I would tell you I'd use it all the time. This is the first time I thought of it regarding a meal.
So you know what else? When you're talking about that, I've never gone into anything with, except for this actually, to start with just one other person. With me, it's always been two other people, and
Tell us more.
Well,
you mean under the covers?
Well,
Sorry, it's very inappropriate of me. Sorry.
No. It's like Tesla, like he wouldn't do anything that didn't divide by 3. And so there's statistics that say if you have 2 or if you have a team of 3, it works out better than any other kind of way. I can't call that statistic. Disclaimer, I've heard it. But how do you think about having a team of 3? What if, like in my personal example, right? I was the storyteller, I was the sales guy, and I partnered with a finance guy and someone who can handle like marketing data. And so how do you feel about having teams of 3? It's also a common thing with tech.
Fair, very, very true. So I'm not sure if it's for public knowledge, but was your partnership in this example, our partnerships equal percentages, 33 and a third, exactly equal percentages across the board. That's even better because then you have 2 people and a majority if they feel that the third person is not in agreement, of course.
Well, almost exactly equal.
Almost exactly equal. So, but even then, even if it's close, for example, 2 of you could outvote the other person. Is that accurate in a decision-making process?
Depends. I think it depends on the bylaws.
Go ahead.
How you have them structured, like in your articles or however your bylaws are structured, set up, and you could change voting from, the amount of shares you hold are different than the amount of voting power you have.
Sure. Was your voting power equal?
Yeah, our voting power is equal.
So the only complexity with the voting power being equal is the good news is 2 could outvote 1. Obviously, and hopefully you're all on the same page, and as things evolve, you usually don't have problems early on. Where you may have problems with more people in the mix is as the business evolves and people's individual priorities change and people evolve. I mean, consider you're 26 now, or 27, I think,
right.
currently. So the person you are today is going to be very different than the person you are in 10 years from now,
Right.
For me at 48, not really going to be that different in 10 years. I've kind of, my personality has kind of solidified itself. It's going to be iterations of it, probably be more forgetful just due to Alzheimer's coming in sooner than later.
Don't think you could have like a drastic change in life and your whole perspective just flips? Like you don't think that moment could still happen?
So I think that moment can happen to anybody. And that's part of you choosing your partners. Choosing your partners aren't just their skill sets, in my humble opinion. I find skill sets are important, but the personality and their stability is very, very important. How they live their life, where they are in life, number one. But things can always change. And don't forget, being a successful partner, like we talked about here in terms of being mentally strong, is you don't sit on the past and you pivot, you move, you constantly flex. So I've always said I don't have to have the perfect partners, but as long as we're willing to work together, that's one of the key ingredients for that meal that we speak about. Is I can change the amount of salt, I can change the amount of pepper in my meal based on my other ingredients. So if you're flexible, anything can succeed. If you have people that are very, very hard and they're inflexible, you are going to have a potentially hard time having a long-term successful relationship.
So it's kind of like, even if we're not the best technical combination, you're willing to be as relentless and as tenacious as I am.
You used a key word there. That is the word I've always been described in my life as relentless.
That's it.
And that is one of the keys to success in entrepreneurship and or life in general. I've always felt, and this is a very important point, my apologies to, I feel it's very important. I never want to say it's important, but I feel it's overly important. That relentlessness is more important than almost any other skill that you have, because you have to want it and never give up.
Right.
The amount of failure as an entrepreneur, and you gentlemen know this, you're failing a lot more than you're succeeding. And it's usually the people that give up and the ones that say, I don't see light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
You need some success to know that it's out there, but you just have to keep going. So, pardon me, relentlessness was the key word you said.
Well, we use 2 terms, intentionality and perseverance. And that perseverance is interchangeable with relentlessness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I do want to talk about, you said you're not about to have a single moment that's going to rock your life. All things considered, it could, but you feel like you're set mentally, or you're in a specific spot. Have you always been relentless? Have you always been this mentally strong person, or was there a defining moment early on where you decided that you were going to be that way?
So it's funny. I think a lot of it has to do with upbringing. you know, and I'm not originally from this area. At 48, 24 years were Philadelphia, and 24 years are here. And I could talk more like this. You know what I'm talking about?
Where is it?
Absolutely, absolutely.
There it is.
2 words I think my daughters will pick on me if you offered me a glass of water. I say water. And if your name was Eric, I say not Eric, I say Eric.
My dad's from Brooklyn, so
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
absolutely.
How do you say coffee?
Coffee. I can do coffee. Absolutely.
Coffee.
I think I've migrated more here to the South, so I don't have a tremendously big accent or dialect in that regard. I think it's ingrained in you, but you constantly refine it, as you spoke about. By the way, I could have a defining moment when I leave here today, something that changes my vantage point and vision on anything. But again, it's how you pivot with it, right?
Yeah.
People tend to think, I want to get here, I want to get here. Is it really the end result, or is it the journey? And these are statements that people have made many times, but as I've gotten older, all those skills to become mentally strong that people don't do, I've been evolving them, Clint, and I'm telling you, I've been evolving them literally on a weekly basis.
Wow.
Personally, people have always said I'm in a good mood. I've heard that a lot. I always feel that I'm in a good mood. You mentioned it when we first saw each other
your energy
today.
was crazy.
Crazy. It's always the way that I feel.
Amazing.
I've had some difficult challenges just this morning.
Yeah.
And it's how I've actually been driving in the car reflecting, okay, how do I have to take these glasses off from my frustrations that I've been experiencing at work today and put on a different set to evaluate how I can better approach this and try to raise everybody up. So don't think that I'm sitting on cloud 9 every day and I have a great perspective and it's all easy. I personally have had challenges just a few hours ago where I was very frustrated, but then I'm reevaluating, okay, what do I have to do? What am I missing in this avenue? And I've talked to the people that have been involved in the situation.
Yeah.
I've talked about what am I missing? What's my perspective? What's your perspective? And I have to flush through that consistently.
Yeah.
So definitely always have struggles. I think that I almost have pivotal moments all the time. Clint, you ask, is there a pivotal moment? I think there's a pivotal moment every other week.
Well, and so another thing that we talk about, and we brought this up with Dave, if you're not pushing yourself on a pretty consistent basis, then you're not prepared for when life naturally pushes against you. And in the idea of getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, what do you do to challenge yourself on a regular basis? And is any of that worked into a consistent routine?
It's a great question. Well, we talk about, being alone, right? Don't be scared to be alone.
Right.
And you have to find those moments that are re-energizing for you. So, my friends and or associates would say I'm very generous, I'm very considerate. And Clint, I speak about this all the time when I've come and spoke at the Entrepreneurship Center.
Yep.
I'll speak to a group of students, and here's what's quite intriguing. I'll do my hour to 2 hour presentation on different topics of entrepreneurship, and every time the classes were over, I would get a summary back of people and their top 3 things they liked the most. And it was intriguing because even though I might feel things are important, it's really interested what my audience, what resonates with them. Right. And then I'll get topics back of I loved this part. And I'm like, oh gosh, wow, I didn't realize that resonated with them. Or I loved this example, or when you spoke of that. And I'm always shocked about the things that resonated, but nothing I've ever seen was the most important point. And I would tell the classes, and I would tell my listeners, this is one of the most important points, and it's the simple fact of consideration. If you're a considerate individual, number one in life and in business, you're going to thrive and succeed no matter where you are because you're aware of your surroundings, you're aware of other people. Then you apply that to business. Now, take one of my strongest suits is being considerate. Take that aside. Now I'm going to go polar opposite, selfish. The only way I can be considerate and successful is by first being very selfish. I call it the airplane theory. Yep. Have you ever heard of this?
I've not.
So if you go on an airplane and you grab one of those little, not the magazine, but the little shows you how to put your air mask on. If the airplane starts going down and the air mask drops, do you put it on your child first or yourself?
Yeah.
Do you know the answer?
It's yourself.
You put it on yourself.
Yeah.
No,
so
it's
that you
don't know.
can put it on your child.
I feel like instinctively it'd be the child, but
exactly.
Yeah.
But it's not. You actually put it on yourself.
Okay.
And the reason is because as I'm going to try to put it on my child's face and the oxygen leaves the room and I pass out, we both die. Okay, so I must take care of myself.
So even at the most primal of save your child's life, you have to have your pitcher of lemonade full before you can pour glasses.
Your kid might pass out, but your kid's not going to die.
Right.
Exactly.
I see.
And if you put your mask on in 2 seconds, it's okay if they're missing oxygen for 3 or 4 seconds. They're not going to die, but you could kill you both or asphyxiate you both or whatever the horrible term is, right?
Right.
So you have to take care of yourself first, and now you have the energy and the wherewithal to take care of your child. So as much as I talk about consideration being one of my keys to success, the other part is the selfishness, right? I am overly, just grossly selfish. And if anybody knows me, you're like, no, you're not, Lee. What are you talking about? You're always considerate. But in my private time, I have to get what I need to get so now that I can perform and start putting the masks on all of my children in the room, whether it be at work, my clients, and things of that nature. So that private time, I mean, I got to get into my fitness, my gym in the morning. I have to maintain my intermittent fasting that I do. I must do my bulletproof coffee, sans the butter, of course, but my MCT oil. I had the privilege of spending quality time with Dave Asprey, the founder of Bulletproof Coffee, and he's an amazing intellectual. But I have my routine to provide myself the resources, the mental energy, the nutrition, all of the components that I need that I can next move on and now start putting air masks or safety masks on everybody's face. So I feel that having that level of selfishness to make sure you take care of yourself first, now I can take care of everybody for the next 12, 14 hours or whatever's needed and just give myself to that.
Yeah.
I know I circled around the question.
No. By expensing yourself a little more and staying disciplined, you're bringing in a higher ROI for everyone else involved in the reality that you bring.
100%. And that's I joke about selfishness, but that moment of you filling your tank, whether it be in the morning or the evening or whatever you need, that is paramount so that you can then produce the rest of the day or the week.
It reminds me of what Morgan Ingram said about, we had a guy come on, Morgan Ingram, and he said people hit him up to chill. And if you can't state your intentions for why you want to hang out or what you want to do, then a lot of times that time is needed to recharge for him so he can continue to be excellent at what he does. He's not just giving that time out freely to others.
Brilliant. I love that.
So how do you, on your spectrum of considerate to selfish, how do you calibrate yourself throughout the day? Like, how do you know in this situation I've got to be like I will prepare myself to be considerate, or, you know, like what, or how do you even define considerate and selfish? Am I looking at it the wrong way from how you're describing?
No, great question. So I'm really bad. And you kind of met my personality when you walked in. You're like, oh, the energy level. It's always a high energy level. And there's a lot of reasons for that. It's a multitude of how you take care of yourself. Also, as I mentioned previously, I have a master's degree in physical therapy. Okay. So I had worked in Philadelphia for 2 years as a physical therapist. Wow. And I worked with the Eagles, the Flyers, the Sixers up there, the sports teams, traumatic brain injury, outpatient. You guys would come in with an ankle injury, geriatric, pediatric. And when you get to work with people every day that are in pain, are not ambulatory, they can't even walk out the door. When you work with people every day, how dare I be ever upset when I walked in here with my own 2 feet, right? When I used to work with people for 2 years that had wonderful dispositions and attitudes, and they're in pain, they can't move, they can't even wipe their own rear end, to be completely frank.
Absolutely.
So when you work with people like that and you see what the quality of their life is and you try to help and improve that, how dare I really get upset? So my personality, unfortunately, I'm going to tell you, I'm black and white. I'm rarely gray, if ever gray. And that's never changed. So I am very, very polar, meaning black and white. So there is no, you know how you have those dimmer switches? Like you said, you turn the dial up, you have the volume 0 to 10. I'm a light switch, not a dimmer light switch. I'm an on, I'm an off. So it is a selfish for my morning to get myself ready. And then now I'm back to considerate for the rest of the day. And even when I'm selfish, I'm relatively considerate. If I have someone in the gym with me, for example, or I'm doing something health-wise, like Clint, we were talking about you coming to work out. Even though I'm going to do a workout, I'm pretty much focused on Clint the whole time. I want to make sure he has a good experience because I'm working out 6-7 days a week. Sure. So I still want him to come up. I'm hosting him. So even though I'm still in my, quote, selfish mode I joke about, and I'm talking about this, and listeners, this is so strange if you're listening, you know, something as simple as holding a door for someone. You know, Clint and I left the Whole Foods the other day, right? And someone was moving their cart, or here's a good one. You have those community tables at Whole Foods. Whenever someone comes to sit at the table that I'm sitting at, I always welcome them and say hello. How can you sit 2 feet away from someone without saying hello? Well, 98% of the people there do that. They just sit down, put their head down, and start eating into their meal. Yeah. So simple things that you don't even realize about. I'm doing that not every day, every instance, every moment. You know, I came in and saw you guys. I was like, thanks for having me in here, because I truly am appreciative. And the difference is any and all of my moves are very authentic.
Yeah, it's like, how can and correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're saying is not how do I make this experience better for me, but how do I make this experience of life better for everyone that comes into contact with me? And I will do that by any means, even if it's perceivably a selfish act.
100%. So, you know, it's funny you say that, because you said it best. Anytime I'm somewhere, well, I came in today, just using this example. You're like, dude, your energy.
Yeah.
Oh, my job's done. You guys seem happier now. So I'm happy.
Exactly.
Someone's always like, Lee, what do you want to do that makes you happy? I don't know, be around some happy people.
Yeah.
So it's very selfish that I want to be around happy people. So as I surround myself with the associates and friends that I know are happy, I love that. But if I'm amongst new people like you gentlemen here today, I want you to be happy.
Yeah,
Because if you're
absolutely.
happy, then I'm enjoying myself. Someone's like, hey, Lee, what do you want? I'm like, I just for you to be happy. I'm
Yeah.
pretty good just sitting around here. I'm low maintenance. But when I'm surrounded by happy, so if we're all sitting at a table at Whole Foods, for example, those community tables, and we were there, Clint, remember we started talking to a woman there. And I made many business contacts just from sitting there. Everybody's my friend. They sit down. Now, I'm not going to interrupt them and interrupt their meal, but hey, how are you doing today?
Yeah.
Make some small conversation, get back to your meal. But I think it's so weird, and I've seen it happen where people come in and sit at the tables and no one looks up, no one acknowledges them, everybody's buried into their own world, they're just worried about whatever they're dealing, whatever microcosm of whatever they have going on, and I'm always perceptive and noticing just people's behavior, not holding a door for someone, not welcoming someone, not saying hello on the street, not walking down the street and waving, how's your day today? How are you doing? That positive energy that I can impart makes me 10 times stronger. 10 times happier when I can take that positivity, and I don't even realize it. You said it when we sat down, which I appreciate, but if I can impart that on everybody I do for the day, it just continues to refuel me. Now apply that to work. Apply that to, and I've never really self-reflected like this. You're making me do this. This is good therapy for me. So if I have this energy level and my managers see me when I come into the office, and you guys I don't even know, and you felt good positive energy,
absolutely.
right? So my staff, they're all your age. They're under 30, under 33, right? And hey, guys, how are you doing today? What's going on? They know they got to bring their A game because I'm going to bring my A game like that. So it changes their mentality, right? If I have that energy, now I impart it on them and they have that energy. What do you think they're doing with that energy? Do you think they're keeping it to themselves or spreading it to their staff?
The intensity inspires intensity.
100%. So now their staff and their clients are getting it as well, and it's just infectious, and it rolls downhill. So really, if I'm not pouring that out to my team and to my staff, it's ultimately my fault for just being very subpar.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's also the same for your family and your children. And this is my biggest point earlier is I don't feel people can separate personal from work. So now I see you guys are banging your head up and down, which is cool, but go ahead.
Doug, you can finish that statement.
I was just going to say, and again, I mean, let me digress. I probably use less curse words at work than I do at home. So there's obviously very clear, and that's my Philly background. You know what I'm talking about. But understand there's some small little outliers. They may not be as gratuitous or may not be as profane at work in a professional, semi-professional environment. But generally speaking, I'm the same person I am personally as I am at work. If someone says, well, that's my work self, this is my personal self, it's not really true. You are pretty much the same person across the board. There might be some little tiny pieces. As I mentioned, I joke about profanity, but really that same level of person that you are, it's the same across the board. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And if you can implode and really work on your own personal sense, it's going to transfer to your work as well. Entrepreneurship and success, guys, has little to do with the money you make, number one. Number two, entrepreneurship business, I just see it as a whole lifestyle. So it isn't so much, that's my work, I'm an entrepreneur because I owned that business X right there.
Right.
I'm an entrepreneur because I'm constantly looking for opportunity, and that's where we can dialogue and transition into how other things have come up for me. But it's really just, I'm just enjoying the moments in my life. And there's no reason we all don't.
Yeah.
Hey, we should just ship everybody overseas to some terrible country where, some impoverished area, go live there for 2 months and come back. I bet you'd be pretty happy with what you have, no matter how big or small it is here.
Absolutely.
I interrupted you.
No. That's a good point. They were talking about that on the Joe Rogan podcast recently, and they were saying, America needs something catastrophic to happen, like a natural, some kind of natural disaster to happen for it to get humbled and see that, life can happen to us too.
Absolutely.
And it is that element, and who knows what kind of economic crisis or whatever can happen, but having that life is real knowledge is something you got to keep that in your awareness and move considerately.
Absolutely. 100%.
That was a great answer.
Well, so one of the things I want to go back to is you're talking about your energy levels, and I'm sure that because you're maintaining this consistently high level of energy, that has played an impact on your business success. I'm also sure that what you're doing in the kitchen and what you're doing in the gym are a significant piece of that recipe for maintaining your energy levels.
Did you say kitchen and recipe on purpose?
Yeah, well, it happened to work out that way. I might have said recipe because I said kitchen beforehand. Tell me a little bit about how you eat, how you fuel your body, And is that intentional for your success, or is that just because you care about health? What's going on there?
So we kind of said, great questions you guys have said, by the way. You're going to notice most things are not, for me, they're not A plus B equals C. I'm doing A, I'm doing B because I want C, right? It isn't that linear. It's more, I'm moving in this more globulous direction, right? Meaning
like
I'm
a lava lamp.
Yeah, like a lava lamp. I'm moving in this direction. So it's not that A plus B equals C. It's that I like nutrition. I like to feel good. Wait, look at that. It also helps me with my mental acuity, my energy level. So all these things are moving in a positive direction, right? I'm taking a step. Some areas of my life I'm sprinting in a positive way. Some I'm skipping happily, of course. Doesn't even have to be through flowers or roses. It could be. Some I'm walking. And some maybe I pause. I take one step. I pause. I take another step before I do something brand new and I want to do a little more evaluation. But I'm rarely ever moving backwards, right? Not by design. I will be punched or thrust with something backwards. Accidentally, I fail, but then I keep moving forward. So my energy is moving me forward. Obstacles may knock me backwards, but I'm moving forward in different directions, different speeds, different methods. So as you said, a lava lamp, which is a great one.
Yeah. How do you practice that mental durability and even staying happy? Because you were giving the example earlier of, for one, to sit down next to someone at a Whole Foods and talk to them, you yourself have to be at a high frequency, because if you're dealing with internal stuff, you're not going to want to talk to the person sitting next to you. So you are already at a high frequency as is, to be able to acknowledge someone else sat down here. I want to make their life better. And like you said,
and that moment, I want to make that moment better.
Their moment better. That's a better way to put it. Their moment better. And then also you were talking about how when you were sitting in your car this morning reflecting, you were dealing with some things, but you were consciously trying to repurpose them and make them in a positive light, or detach from them and figure out what can I do, instead of letting them completely turn you
overwhelm me. That's a great question. I'll come back to the kitchen and recipe and nutrition. To this one, it's been from mistakes. So remember, I'm 48. Right. So in my younger years, my energy level was just equally as vivacious, if not more.
Right.
So I have made mistakes where I've lashed out on frustration or anger at staff and or people. If I'm angry, like I was angry this morning, or frustrated about situations and how something was handled. Right. In the past, I used to, or I probably more than likely would lash out, even though I was accurate. Even though I was valid and all of the A's plus B's equaled C, and people in my organization or around me were not doing their job, I was probably more aggressive than I needed to be. And later I would feel very, very bad about it. And I would watch the ripple effect of how my actions would affect them. And I had done that for years. I wasn't a monster, but if something was wrong, I'd be that all this energy that you see was coming at somebody in a bad way. Like, why are you doing that? What's going on? I'm frustrated about this. And as I've gotten older, I remember the feeling that I had when I would be critical of these people. And even though I was right, even though they were wrong, they would admit it, not in a, I have an upper hand on you. But even though those things happened, what really positive came out of it, right? I felt better making you feel bad, right? I mean, I felt better proving, and you know it, and I know it, that I'm right and you're wrong. But we're on the same team. So is that really the best avenue for us to grow as people together? So I know that I did that. I mean, I'm probably talking a decade and a half ago when I was in my, late 20s, early 30s. But as I've evolved and I've noticed, I don't like that feeling. I'm not getting the growth out of that employee or that situation. How can I approach this better? Now, it's very easy to get angry, frustrated, and do what I said that I used to probably do. Right? Just blah.
It's quick off the
I'm right.
ego. Yeah.
I'm pissed. You're wrong. I'm right. I feel good. You feel bad.
Congrats. At least you know now.
Exactly. Yeah. Right? But is that really long-term the best approach? In my new approach and my self-evaluation, I'm still frustrated. I'm still, we come to find, accurate or right in certain situations where I'm wrong many times. And the individuals or staff that I worked with may not be right. I hate to say wrong, but it's more I ask questions, more I say, so why did that happen? And it takes a lot for me to sit back and reflect. So my energy level is very beneficial, but you have to take all the things that are good about your personality and also know, okay, where can those be weaknesses, right? Where exactly can I understand I need to step back right now and maybe utilize this energy to help lift you up?
What would be an example of kind of repurposing a characteristic like that?
So just in today's example, right, where I was very angry about something, instead of me lashing out and saying the 5 things that 3 of my staff members had incorrect and handled poorly. I then was able to contact them and ask them questions along the way. Instead of me being accusatory, I was able to ask questions so that they were able to elicit and process. I think I could have done that better. Oh man, I think so as well. But let's move past it. Where do we go from here? So it's the what did we learn about? And then how do we fix it? So you still should address, as you said, the individual situations of what went wrong so we can know, hey, that's what happened. Okay, we're never discussing that again. How do we fix the situation right now going forward? I want to live in the present. I don't want to live in the past. And I think that was actually one of the strong things here. You know, this was articles that I read and always kind of reflect on at one point and just say, yeah, I think I do most of these things. What about this one? What about that one?
Yeah.
So it was, I do not want to live in the past. As you said even earlier, Clint, you learn from the past, you evaluate it, then you quickly to move on. But to go back to what you said about, is it by accident, nutrition, health, how can you fuel your vehicle? How can you perform well if you're not fueling yourself accurately? So I'll quickly summarize, because I know you had guests on before with nutrition. I'm not a nutritionist, but I was very fortunate to marry a woman who is a nutrition. She has her degree in integrative nutrition. She's pretty much a professional chef. It's insane how fortunate I am to have married her and we worked on this together. She just has taken really the role with that. But for the past few years, I've been doing intermittent fasting, which is a whole nother topic on mitochondria and autophagy, which breaks down all the bad mitochondria, gives you all the good mitochondria, rebuilds them and repurposes them. I'm real big about brain health.
Real quick, is mitochondria the gut bacteria?
So no, mitochondria is the building block of the body.
Powerhouse.
The powerhouse, the building block, the cells. Years ago, they used to, the mitochondria, the building block of the body. It's pretty much the fight or flight of your whole body. It's every little cell and organism there. So as we get older, like me, you guys don't have to worry about this, but as I'm older, after 40, your mitochondria actually start to break down. They become like a used car.
Okay.
So you get a brand new car off the lot, you see how it performs, how it smells, how wonderful it is, and you get a 40-year-old car, it's still going to drive, but it's not going to nearly perform. It's not going to go 0 to 60. It's going to have brake and wear and tear and things of that
Probably
nature.
smell like cigarettes.
It's exactly right. Cigarettes, pot, anything across the board. But ultimately, autophagy is a process through intermittent fasting and other avenues where what I do is I stress my mitochondria. It's more complex, but I'll just do a high-end overview. I'm stressing my mitochondria so that the weak mitochondria die off. And when the weak mitochondria die off from in this stressed environment, new mitochondria have to rebuild. When they rebuild, they're brand new and they're fresh. It's like getting a brand new car in your system every time. So I do that. I do a lot of brain octane MCT oil, which is a coconut oil for brain activity. And then, of course, recently, I saw in your last podcast, you talked a little bit about that Game Changers documentary. Yep. For the past 3.5 months, my wife have gone plant-based, whole food plant-based. Clint had to listen to me the other day. Yeah. You could say the word vegan, and I will briefly touch base on this. You can say vegan. I prefer to say whole food plant-based because I can eat a stack of Oreos in front of you right now, and that's vegan. And then I can go get an Impossible Burger or a Beyond Burger, and that's vegan. I can go to Canyon Burgers right now or Burger King. I can't tell you Burger King's bun doesn't have egg in it, so I can go to Canyon Burgers. I can get a stack of sweet potato fries, get an Impossible Burger, and that is vegan, 100%.
Think about how many vegans you know that aren't healthy. So
yeah, they eat a lot of fried food. They eat a lot of fried vegetables.
They eat fried vegetables. I saw at Whole Foods. Exactly. They have fried tofu.
Yeah.
So I am not dismissing veganism. I would consider ourselves more whole food plant-based, and I'll elaborate slightly.
You're dismissing the culture of veganism.
No, that's very true. Well, it's changing.
The environment of veganism.
It is rapidly changing, but I would say 85% of my meals are whole food plant-based. We make it home, or I go to a Whole Foods with you, Clint, and we get the vegan stew with quinoa, and I get steamed vegetables, and I'm getting in 80%, 85% of my plate is a rainbow-colored organic vegetable in some capacity. Mm-hmm. Then you're going to get your carbohydrate, whether it be your vegetables or your sweet potato, and then your main issue in nutrition is what's your protein. Mm-hmm. You're going to do a plant-based protein, which you can get from hemp seeds and beans, but you can also get from tempeh or other sources, or you're going to do a piece of meat, right? Everybody can have their argument. This is very important to know, and I've listened and talked to many professionals in this realm. 85% of your plate should be vegetables. 7%, 6% should be your carbohydrate, and your vegetables will give you carbs. Really, your sticking point for people is what's my protein. Mm-hmm. If you're going to do 90% of your plate with your correct carbs and vegetables, who cares about the 10% protein?
Yeah.
Eat a piece of meat. I'm all about it. Like, if you're doing the other stuff, all aboard. I'm also just doing it now for about 3.5, 4 months of whole food plant-based, just to test. Yeah. Because we're such nutrition people, and we're so interested in our fuel level in terms of how we fuel ourselves. I just wanted to see how my body responds, but at the same time, it isn't subjective. It's also qualitative.
Yeah.
What I mean by qualitative is I did blood work before I began my plant-based. I have another blood work scheduled at 6 months, and I happen to have a blood work that was done 1 month into my plant-based just for insurance purposes for the business, and my cholesterol went down 70 points in 1 month.
Yeah.
70 points in 1 month.
For anyone who was listening, this is what an entrepreneur mindset is he's talking about. You're not just an entrepreneur for building one company. You're an entrepreneur for essentially running the scientific method through different elements of your life.
Continually challenging yourself, putting yourself in states where you're going to grow.
100%. I mean, and we're figuring out as we go, by the way. So I'm not here promoting veganism or whole food plant-based eating. I will promote, and this is, I could say on the record, is 85+% of your plate should be vegetables, whether you're eating steak, chicken, tempeh, or any other protein source, but you should still get your quality organic vegetables in no matter what avenue.
Yeah.
I did a keto-ish diet for years. I did a paleo-ish diet for years, but it's really that plant-based should be a portion of it, no question. And then your piece of protein, I'm not even going to remotely argue. I'll let all those professionals do that.
Well, and when I met Lee, he was doing intermittent fasting, and then shortly afterward, intermittent fasting and keto simultaneously.
Keto-ish.
Yeah. Keto-ish.
I don't agree with
honesty.
everything. Well, because there was just a little. Sometimes there's too much about fats and things of that nature, and there's different types of fats. Go ahead.
And now we've progressed to intermittent fasting and whole foods plant-based simultaneously.
Precisely.
So another thing, we talk about mindset, business, fitness, and relationships, and we've certainly covered, a whole gambit here. But you mentioned your wife and the role that she's had on your diet and nutrition. And if you don't want to answer this on the air, by all means, we can.
By the way, before you even ask it, I'll answer anything on the air.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I'll bring out the private questions.
Scared of nothing.
Something we're fascinated by is the role of relationships in an entrepreneur's life, specifically romantic relationships, spouses, partners. I know that this is your second wife.
Yep.
And originally you were married probably when you were close to our age. What age did you
28,
get married?
27, 28.
27,
Absolutely.
28. And you were already an entrepreneur at this point?
I was.
And so what were you looking for in a partner then versus in a partner later in life? As an entrepreneur.
As embarrassing as it sounds, so you learn from your mistakes. Remember, I'll reflect back when I talk about how I approach things today as a reflection of how I approached things back then. I've learned from not losing my temper or getting upset or criticizing people versus let me bring you on a journey so we can solve it together. And I've made those mistakes and I felt very bad if I would get upset. I never want to feel bad. I'll pause, and before I answer that question, I'll joke about this. People say, Lee, you're very loquacious, right? When I was single for a few years after my first marriage, I remember friends would be like, you have no problem meeting people. I'm like, let me explain to you why. When I was single for a couple years in between my marriages, when I would be out or if I wanted to meet a young lady, for example, the pain of seeing someone maybe wanting to say hello and not doing anything, and then I beat myself up for 2 or 3 days afterwards that I didn't talk to that girl, was more painful than having to go up and get rejected. So I didn't mind getting rejected as much as the pain after the fact of not doing it. And that's what I've learned a lot about is I make a lot of mistakes, and I've made a ton of mistakes, and I've received a lot of pain from those mistakes, whether it be, temper with employees or getting vivacious, and I tried to learn from it. I don't want to feel like that again. So go to the mistake of my first marriage. Segue into that. I'll be frank with you. At 28, 29, my business partner got married. And it's all about timing. And he got married. So, geez, I happen to be dating someone. That's probably what I'm supposed to do at this time, right? I'm 28 or 29. I have a business. He's getting married. We just went to his wedding. I probably should be doing this. And, you're in this world and there's so much going on that you just jumped into it, right? And I am not criticizing my ex-wife at all. We have 2 wonderful children together from that marriage. And I learned so much through that process of the pain and misery of divorce. Divorce is terrible, no matter what. We had an amicable divorce, and I was very fortunate enough to have custody of my children. I was able to help and raise them myself. And then through that process, I was not looking to re-meet someone again when I was single. I was just focused on growing my business at that time. I can even share, Clint, as I mentioned before, is after I sold my business and restarted my tech business, and I was raising these children, I had such financial woes, I had to claim bankruptcy. Back when I was raising my children by myself, I had no income. We were trying to grow our tech business, and I'm proud to admit it, like 8.5 years ago, that, wow, I'm in the hole we have no income. And again, not crying the blues at all.
Yeah.
I had zero income. My tech business wasn't earning any money. I was trying to raise 2 children while trying to run a business, picking them up from school, getting babysitters, and just spending whatever money I didn't have on credit cards, and realized, wow, I'm never going to get out of this hole.
Is this after or during your commercial printing business?
Yeah, I sold that business.
Okay.
Literally, it's a funny joke because I sold that business, came home and was around the house more, and my ex-wife at that time was like, "Ooh, you're around the house more. Time for us to get divorced."
Yeah.
And I always
You
joke.
know what? I learn about this stuff because like I learn about any of our topics. Like I'm super interested in learning.
We
about,
read books on this.
Well, exactly. That's the short way of saying that. And so that's one thing that some of these authors write about happening is when a man perceivably loses his purpose. Even if you just want to hang around with your family. If a man perceivably loses his purpose, there's an element of security and excitement. It's a weird duality that has to coexist at the same time, and that disappears, and it hurts the relationship. And that's often the lead is a man's transition or loss of job often will lead to a divorce.
So, well, the timing was there, so that could be the textbook of it as well. But I remember, and again, I tip my hat to my ex-wife. Nothing. We still have a very good relationship, and she sees the children whenever she's available to do so. But I remember I've always joked that I've been a loyal. My parents are still together.
Yep.
My wife Emily, my current wife Emily, her parents are still together, and we have that foundation of always being loyal. And divorce was not even a question in my mind. So I would have stayed married to my ex-wife forever. Whether happy or unhappy, because that's all I knew. And I always joke that my first divorce was the greatest decision of my life that I never made.
Yeah.
Because she had requested the divorce and wanted to get out of it, but amicable enough. I was a great dad, and she let me take care of the children and raise them, and thought it was best at the time without getting too complex. But going through that financial woes and having to claim bankruptcy, you're meeting me today and seeing the energy level and the positivity. I was the same person back then.
Yeah.
Through bankruptcy, I was the same person back then. But why? I still have my health. Even in our lowest point in this country, in my humble opinion, I still have heat. I still have water. I still have shelter for the children in the home that we were in. Even though I went through all of that, does that really change my level of happiness? Sure. Having some money struggles. Hey, trying to make something of it. But I still was relatively happy all the time. And I'll share this one example. We talk about perspective. I'll never forget. This was a monumental time in my own thought process. I happened to come into my kitchen, freshly divorced. Financial destruction occurred, and my parents were in the kitchen with me, and I came down very happy, and they said, whoa, I don't understand. You look so happy. Everything's a mess. What are you doing? Yeah. I said, so I could wake up today, and this is really important. I could wake up today. My 2 daughters at 4 and 6 or 5 and 7, they're sleeping upstairs right now, right? I could wake up, walk downstairs, see you guys, and say, okay, I have no income.
Yep.
I have no money.
Right.
I have no job pretty much. I'm growing a tech business that doesn't have any income at all.
Really?
And I could give you, and I just got divorced, and my children don't have a mother, and I could put those glasses on and wake up every day and think of that. Or what I do is I wake up every day and say, hey, my children are upstairs in the bedroom, and I'm able to raise them. Look at you guys, my parents, you're still healthy, and I get to see you every day.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to grow a business right now, and I have the control and the ability to do that. Hey, look at that. I have a roof over my head. The water's running, and the heat's on. And that's the way that I chose to look at it every day. So you can wake up and look at all the negative stuff, or you can choose to wake up and look at all the positive stuff.
Absolutely.
And I tended to I just always do that, right? I always tend to look at all the positive stuff instead of focusing on the negative. I think it was actually one of the 13 strong mindset is not focus on the negative stuff.
If not, it should be the 14th.
Well, this is huge because we've interviewed a lot of people at this point, something close to 80 interviews or sit-downs, and I've never heard a background with rooted in what could be perceived as initial failure.
Tremendous failure.
Tremendous failure.
Not even perceived, it was accurately failure.
It was.
Would you say that moment in your life was rock bottom for you?
So rock bottom for me was getting a divorce because I'm very loyal. Mm-hmm. So that was something I couldn't control. In Georgia, or I'm not sure what other states, it's not, you don't have to mutually decide on that. Do you get my point? You don't have to say, I agree, what I don't agree, let's try to negotiate. One person can request a divorce. And I remember not having control of that situation. And I didn't know what to do at that point because now I'm concerned for my kids. All I knew about was family, familial structure. And if you notice, I think one of those 13 said, you can't control everything, right? You have to let go and you can't control
Don't
everything.
worry about things that are outside of your control.
But I'll be honest with you, I never viewed it even as rock bottom because I pivoted with it. And I said, okay, this is going to happen now. I've accepted it. Now what do I do to move forward to it? So I know this sounds so hokey. I'm going to.
No.
I've never been asked. Did you consider that rock bottom? I think rock bottom for me will be when you bury me 6 feet under. Like that's the only time it'll be rock bottom.
Quite literally, yeah.
No, literally. Like
yeah.
in whenever, with 40 years, 20 years, 30, whatever, however long I live, I think that will be rock bottom because I never perceive. Well, I'm at the bottom right now because if I touch the bottom with my toe, I'm jumping right up, going, where do I go next?
Yeah.
So I personally feel. I probably hit rock bottom probably every 6 months, and I just bounce off of it.
Where
and
you
keep
just
going.
fall into a lower state.
Yeah, lower state, bounce up, go up again, bounce
Yeah.
up, go up again. I'm constantly, no one's ever happy all the time, but it's that, remember that progression I say, how do you keep moving forward? So I've just never perceived anything to be rock bottom.
And this was less than a decade ago. This was
It's about a decade, close to it, yeah, about 10 years ago.
10 years ago, you get divorced.
Yep.
You file for bankruptcy.
Yes, I do.
And that lasts 7 years. Well, the divorce is permanent, but
Yeah,
the
the bankruptcy is off my record now.
7 years.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's 7 years.
And so today, you employ more than 60 people.
I do.
You work with over 250 customers.
We do.
Here in the Marietta, Kennesaw, Metro Atlanta area.
Yeah,
Can we get a blue button for that?
Yeah.
I'm on a winning streak.
You eat.
Can you send me that? Because I want to play that periodically.
Do you know
in my
who
life.
that is?
No.
That's Charlie Rocket.
Yeah.
He's got a great story.
I'm going to need that. Go ahead.
So you employ 60 people. You work with 250 customers. You own a shooting and gun range.
We have a
Ball Ground.
tactical training range.
Tactical
absolutely.
training range. You practice martial arts.
I do, and we do the shooting skills as well.
You've got a compound at your home that people come work out in.
We have a lot of CEOs that come up to the workout facility. You're exactly right.
You maintain a strict fitness and nutrition regimen.
We're correct. We also have a nationally syndicated podcast for the past 4 years now, launching in Canada. No, that's all right. So we have 15 studios in the United States, plus we're launching 15 more in Canada now, and a new city probably every other month for entrepreneurship, of course,
Yeah.
the Shrimp Tank.
Yep.
Shout out Shrimp Tank Podcast. Go
Very
give it
cool.
a listen.
We also own a commercial real estate company.
I love it.
So we have a Coordinate Property Management owns our buildings that we have over in Woodstock.
Yeah.
So during that time of famine, of scarcity, of uncertainty, whatever you want to call it, this trial, you maintain a positive energy, a positive mindset going forward. What was the first success after that initial failure that you felt like, hey, the tide is turning, things are going well?
It's a great question. So again, I'll ask you a question on that question. When you say success, do you mean financial, personal, growth? There's so many definitions of success when you say
good
that.
question.
So I'm really curious which one you mean.
Any. Let's
Financial.
go. Financial was specifically what I was asking.
Okay.
But any of them would apply. Something that you considered a big hallmark W.
So
really.
so this is such a twisted answer. It's amazing. Sorry, I'm complimenting my own answer before I say it. It's so gross. Sorry
Hey,
about that.
that's a testament to your positivity.
Well, so here's the reason. So uncertainty is crippling.
yeah.
And I was fortunate enough during my divorce so you are required in the state of Georgia, or back then, that let's just pretend Clint and I were married and we said we want to get a divorce. We're both on the same page. Everything's been worked out and we both want to get a divorce. And then we go right to an attorney tomorrow and say we want to get a divorce. We still have to wait 30 days. So you're required, if we've done all the paperwork and we've negotiated everything out, which is still miserable, you are required in the state of Georgia to wait 30 days. And they probably do that in case someone gets into a blown up fight. I want to divorce you. I want a divorce. And they don't want it to be so spur of the moment. They want you to have 30 days to probably process that. So from the moment this all went down, I'm a creature of action, right? I'm not a person of contemplative thought. Contemplative thought. Let me stroke my semi beard compared to
got a
your
ding.
gentlemen's luscious beards.
We'll define that in the bottom.
Yes. But I'm not someone to contemplate things and sit and chew and stroke my beard and ask, what do I do next? Right. I like action and direction, even if it's not the perfect direction. It's still that lava lamp direction, moving in the same direction. So I would tell you the greatest success, the first success to me was resolving the divorce within 35 days. I'm talking we negotiated for 5.
Wow.
We put ourselves in play for 30. And no matter how much money I had to pay out from the sale of my business and whatever I had to do to go bankrupt, it didn't matter at that point. I now signed it, and now this is my new path in life. So if I was stuck in a divorce, which is very common, I don't know how many people you know have them, they're separated for 6 months, a year, 2 years before a divorce even happens.
Yeah.
That is torture, and that is crippling. So to me, it didn't matter. I'll give you everything. I don't even care. Let's cease it. So as we said, out of these 13, now I can move forward, right? Now I can focus on success. Instead of I'm going to fight to save another $5,000 and spend 6 months paying attorneys $30,000 to argue for another $5,000. Finality was my greatest success. We were successfully, unsuccessfully divorced, whatever you want to call it, successfully divorced in 35 days, no matter how challenging, no matter how much money I had. Okay, boom, this is my new chapter in my life. The page is turned. I don't have to look back. So that was, I've never answered like that. Sounds weird. The sky's the limit, right? At this point, there's nothing holding me back, because if I'm in the middle of negotiations for a year, if I'm in the middle of negotiations for 2 months, I'd be crying in just the stress of it. So the finality of it is, and knowing, boom, this is now done. Boom, these are the defined terms of it.
Turn the page of the book.
Turn the page. I'm not going to look back. Okay, I got to pay X, Y. Okay, no problem. Just put that in auto draft, and let's just keep moving forward. So now I can just grow, whether it be a business, personal, or things of that nature.
Well, and I know we're hopping all over the place here, but on the spirit of relationships, how long did it take before you met Emily? And were you specifically looking for any traits in particular in your new partnership?
Great question. So again, we talk about A plus B equals C. I don't work like that.
Yep.
It's more of a feel, right? Or just a flavor and reading an environment. There's so many cues and good and bad. And I remember I dated, and I want to comment on that as well about family. You asked another one earlier. But I dated probably 1.5 to 2 years when I was single, but I only did online dating. I simply didn't have time. I had 2 children I was solely responsible for. I had a nanny that would pick them up from school at 3, and then she would leave at 7:30 or 8 when I would arrive from work.
So you had a Tinder account?
No, I know there was no Tinder back then.
Oh, it was before Tinder.
Yeah, it was only Match and eHarmony, right?
Wow.
It was.
So you were on the computer doing it.
Yeah, I would do it on the phone, or if they even had iPhones back then. The point is, my babysitter would stay there till 7:30 or 8, so I'd come home and work. And literally, I would maybe be able to do a coffee periodically with someone, because I would say, hey, look, I have to get home for my 2 children, right? So I always was home at 8 o'clock to put the kids to sleep and to always be there for them, because I didn't want the babysitter raising them. She just had to do it while I was working. I remember it had been 1.5 to 2 years of dating very nice people, quality individuals, but just it wasn't a match for where I was in my life and or where I was going, or just didn't, I'm not criticizing people. It just wasn't a great connection. Right. And I remember one day, so this funny story is, oh my goodness, she'd be so embarrassed if she hears this. I did that combative martial arts, Tang Soo Do, for 3 years. I had a competition. And things happen for a reason. I had a competition. My instructor and I were driving to North Carolina for a competition. He got sick. He got the flu. He called me and said, man, I got the flu, but I'll still drive. I said, I'm not sitting in the car with you for 4 hours with the flu. I'm just not going to do it. Let's just cancel it. So I had the night off because my parents were watching the kids. The Philadelphia Phillies were in the playoffs. I'll never forget that. I went down to Buckhead. I don't drink. I drink 2 times a year if I'm lucky, right? It puts me to sleep. Mm-hmm. Like if you want me to go to sleep, I'll take a drink, right? Mm-hmm. So if you want to party, let's do just some Coke or something. I'm just kidding. I don't do drugs. I said that you don't know me. I don't do drugs. Like, no, I don't. No, but I'm joking. I actually don't. If you knew me better, I joked about it. And someone's like, Lee, you sound like you're always like coked up or something. Yeah. I've never done that in my life.
You have a great amount of energy.
Yeah, I have never done cocaine or things of that nature. And I've inhaled once in college. To? No, my friends would be like, your head would explode. Oh, there it is right there. I can do that. Perfect. No, I'm kidding. So no, I've never done it. Not an interest in it. And even drinking puts me to sleep. And I'm like, why would you want to feel like that? I like being energetic, right? So I did go down to Buckhead. I was literally at, oh goodness gracious. It was a bar right outside of Lenox Mall. I forget the sports bar that it was, but it was a sports bar out there. Do you know it?
I know which one you're talking about.
It's right across next to it's got a strip mall next to it. It's right there. It's right on the right behind the Swiss Hotel type of thing. It's embarrassing. It's from where I met my wife.
Yeah, I know.
Here's how dorky I am. I was in the mall shopping for jeans, and I said I want to go watch the Phillies game. is there a bar around here? I had to ask the concierge at Lenox Mall, is there a bar where I can go watch the game? Because I don't go out much. So I sit at the front of the bar. I say, put the Phillies game on. And then I actually started drinking, right, and had a meal. And then I met a ton of other Phillies fans, and you can appreciate my personality. If I'm talking to strangers at a Whole Food, we had the bar rocking and rolling the whole time.
Yeah, that's good.
And a guy shows up, and he says, hey, my friend, he was there with his girlfriend. He said, your friend Emily, which is my wife, she would love Lee. I'm like, nah, man, don't worry about it. I'm not interested in meeting anybody. I'm good. I've been dating for years, 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years. I'm kind of good. I was kind of done with it. Yeah. Honestly, I was literally done with searching and looking. I was just going to focus on my daughters. And that girl called her friend Emily. And Emily's like, no, I'm in bed. I don't want to come out. And she's like, no, I met a great guy. And wow. She convinced her to come out. I will never forget. She came out. The bar is crowded. I shake her hand. Nice to meet you. And she goes over there. And they're like, sit next to her, make a seat for her. I'm like, no, we're good. I had no interest. I was like, oh, great. Could have been Heidi Klum that walked in. I'd be like, oh, cool, you're good. I didn't have any interest. Not
even for Heidi Klum.
No, my wife's even better looking than Heidi Klum. So it didn't matter to me. It didn't matter to me.
Let's go.
It really didn't
Good
matter.
Answer.
It's true, I swear. And so ultimately, after people are yelling enough at you to say, look, make a seat, you actually have to at that point or it gets uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So she sat down and said, nice to meet you. I said, what can I get you for something to eat, of course? And she's always told me that was really nice when you were trying to get me food. I'm like, just that consideration part, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't doing it to be nice. It's just, you could sit next to me and be like, what can I get you to eat, right? Something considerate. We had an amazing evening. Her best friend is from Philadelphia. I'm from Philadelphia, right? So we joked, and I said, oh, my family's up there. We should go to Philly one day, right? So as we're leaving, she goes, okay, and we had a great evening, joking about going to Philly one time. As we're leaving the bar that night, we say goodbye. I get her number, and I said, listen, I'd really love to maybe go out with you. And I never thought I'd want to do that. She goes, I got a better idea.
You said that to her. I never thought I'd want to do that.
I never thought I'd want to. I had no interest in this whatsoever. She goes, I have a better idea. Let's not see each other again until we're on a plane to Philly.
Whoa.
Then you can see your family. I'll see my best friend. And I said, ooh, I'm the wrong guy to challenge. Like, okay, deal. So the next day, the Phillies won. The next week, that was a Saturday or Friday night. The next weekend, the Phillies were in Philadelphia playing the St. Louis Cardinals. I texted her the next day and said, hey, look, I'm ready to buy flights and tickets to the Phillies game next weekend. I'll just pick you up on Thursday, and we'll fly up to Philly for the weekend. And she goes, yeah, no problem. We'll do it. We'll see you then.
Wow.
Literally, we didn't see each other all week. We didn't talk on the phone all week. She lied to her parents and said that we had been dating for months because she was going to get on a plane with a stranger and go up there. It's an amazing story. I forgot what she looked like. I looked her up on Facebook back then, and I had the wrong Emily Milligan.
Oh, no.
Oh, it was a great... Sorry to go off on this tangent. It was amazing. I pick her up on Thursday.
This is gold.
I pick her up on Thursday at Emory. I can't remember what she looks like. Obviously, she's adorable when I see her. And now I'm concerned. Oh, God. Oh, so, and here's where I kind of fell for her. The next day, Clint, that was a Friday night we met each other. Saturday, I text her and say, I'm getting Philly tickets and plane tickets. Let's go. You challenge me. She goes, I'm in. Sunday, I wake up and that consideration hit me. And I texted her. I broke. And I said, Emily, this is Lee. I'm going to be down in your area taking a run today. Why don't we take a run together?
While y'all are in Philly.
No. This was before we left.
Okay.
So that Saturday, I got the tickets. The next day, I'm concerned that this young lady's going to get on a plane with a strange guy. Right? And I'm very considerate. And I'm thinking maybe she didn't see me. Maybe she isn't going to be happy with me. So I said, hey, I'm going to be down on Sunday. We have the date the next weekend. Why don't we take a run together and just do a quick 3-mile run together? This way we kind of see each other again, make sure there's a vibe. Maybe you don't want to go to Philly. You know what I mean? We've made a pretty big commitment here. She texts me back, we are not deviating from the plan. See you next week. I was like, oh,
let's go. You fell in love right there.
I was like, I kind of like you. Right? So I can't find her picture. I have no idea what she looks like at this point. I really forget. I was intoxicated. This is crazy. I pick her up at Emory, where she worked at that point on Thursday. We fly. I'm terrified of flying. She doesn't know that I'm white knuckling. I'm keeping it to myself. And we go to Philly and have an amazing time, tell the story to all of her friends. We saw at dinner and went to the Phillies game and had a great time, and the rest is history.
Wow.
Side note, sorry about that.
Well, so
that was amazing.
Sorry, that's such a...
No, that is an awesome
And real quick,
story.
was the place Dantana's?
Dantana's.
Let's go.
Oh God, it's so big. If she's not. My wife will not listen to me on this stuff, because hopefully she'll listen in. But it's embarrassing. I didn't remember Dantana's. Great call.
Great place.
Great.
Shout
call.
out Dantana's.
I'm going to be in Philly next week.
Yes, you
got
are.
3 recommendations?
For restaurant?
Restaurants, food, something to do, whatever.
All right, let me call a few of my friends because it's been a long time for me.
Okay.
I'm going to text you a whole itinerary.
That's a bet.
But go back to the family component, Clint. I just want to make sure this is really important. A lot of entrepreneurs have a difficult time with work-life juggle.
Yeah.
I won't say balance, I say juggle, right? Because it's never really a balance. It's, I've got more here, I've got more there. So, and I'm giving you a very accelerated answer to this one because you talk about work-life juggle or balance, as people say. You know, I always, and I find this to be a consistent theme amongst every CEO that I know, because we all work all the time. The work is 24/7, right? We're always dialed in. And there is no question, I have 3 daughters, 2 teenagers and a 6-year-old, all wonderful children and a wonderful wife. But there's no other men in the house, right?
Yeah.
I joke, and I'm like, no one wants to sit and watch the Eagles with me. No one wants to watch any of that stuff. So people tend to forget how important their family is. They tend to use their family as a punching bag at the end of a very stressful, busy day. But they're really your most important people. So I've started converting my mentality as I'd be pulling into the house at night. I try to, and this sounds so cold, so this is horrible, and I'm just giving you my cheat sheet, is I try to treat my family like they're my most expensive and largest paying client. Because I'll go to appointments with my clients, and they're all wonderful people, but I still want to, hey, tell me what's going on in your world. You know, maybe things that I maybe don't love, but I want to find out because they are a client and they're the priority, of course, the way that you treat a client. But if you have your most important client, do you really come to their office, which is your home, and just complain about the rest of your day? Imagine if you walked into your biggest client and said, hey, Clint, I know you're our biggest client. Oh, Clint, I've had a terrible day. And just I start complaining to you about my day. You'd be like, why the hell are you here, dude? What are you doing? So I almost kind of try, and I recommend that to my CEOs that are highly successful individuals, to say, you need to be treating your family like your biggest and most important paying client. So sure, maybe I don't want to come in and listen to whatever new style my 15-year-old daughter's clothing is, but I'm going to be all about it, right? What color are you coloring your hair today, honey? Oh, that's a cool color. What about that eyeliner? Sure, I have no problem with that. Yeah, as a guy, it isn't my first instinct to be overly interested in the brand or style of whatever that clothing may be, but I'm going to entertain it because it matters to her. Or my wife, whatever she's talking about, that maybe might not entertain me at that moment, and vice versa. She does the same for me all the time. So she's constantly giving and taking. I always say this. When you're married or you have a family, instead of saying the word marriage, this is another terrible thing. I'm just dropping all the hammers. You say the word compromise. So I'll say I've been compromised for 7 years. Yeah. Now, I've been married for 7 years. I've been compromised for 7 years. Yeah. So we always joke because life with you're laughing, Clint, but that's the term I use. Is I've been compromised for a little over 7 years.
I hear you can either be right or you can be smart.
Yeah, exactly, correct. But you still want to stand your ground. You know, remember we talk about that one, which is don't give away your power.
Right. So there's that duality.
There's a duality there. So I don't feel that you need to come into your family and be a whipping post and to be a wash rag about it. So there is a fine line. That's a big part about giving away power. You know, that article that I have here, and it actually talked about Oprah Winfrey, and she had to fight through sexual abuse and things of this nature, and she knows where her lines are. So I still think, as I mentioned, that they're your biggest client. You still don't need to be steamrolled by your family. Right. There's a give and a take. So you still want to be accommodating, you want to be considerate, and you want to attend to them, unlike just coming home and releasing the stress of your day. These are really important nuggets because I have a lot of CEOs and friends that are working nonstop, and their families are very unhappy with them sometimes, or most of the time, to be completely frank. So I try my best to offset that, and I try my best not to really talk or do work in front of them. I try to escape to an office if I have to do something.
And muster up the best version of yourself possible at that time.
Muster up is a great choice of words, and that's what we talk about. I might take a little selfish moment 10 minutes before I pull into the house so that I can refuel myself, disconnect for a moment, finish up what I'm doing, and then try to focus completely on them when I walk in the door. So it's not perfect all the time, but I'm cognizant and always, that's probably my weakest characteristic, is doing this successfully every day. It's a 365-day-a-year job, of course, so I would say I'm getting better, but I'm far from perfect at doing what I'm proclaiming right now.
Lee, this has been incredible. But before we wrap up, you have 7 other notes.
I do have 7 other notes. Guys, I'm sorry. How long have we been on this?
So we're at 1 hour 15 now.
This is crazy. No one's listened this long. If
they do.
If someone's listening to this, you're crazy.
And I know I've learned a lot. You said nuggets earlier. I've pulled a lot of nuggets from this. I know Jonathan has as well.
So I found this intriguing. We talked about the 13 components that mentally strong people do not do. Yeah. So this is kind of an adjunct to this, and I learned from this. So if you can work towards becoming that mentally strong person. And I mentioned the 13, of course, and Clint, maybe I'll send you a link for the article as well if you want to post it. But those are things that not only if you don't do them today, those are things you can work on to do in the future. And as you attain that status of being mentally strong, These are the ways that these strong people, the mentally strong people, handle stress. Number one, they simply accept that stress is part of their life. Mm-hmm. We simply know it. Hey, I know what's out there. I know that stress is going to always be there. Look, we're not a zebra in the safari waiting for the alligator to jump out of the water and get us, right? They're in constant stress.
Yeah.
We are not in constant stress, but there's moments of stress, and most of it, personally, in my opinion, are very self-inflicted, you know, in our environment. You know, we're not looking for food, water, and shelter, so those stresses aren't there. So proportionally put that in perspective.
I love it. I agree. I think it's your emotions are going to happen, but how you channel them is up to you.
100%, but you understand you're always going to be in some level of it.
I love that. Yeah.
They keep problems in proper perspective. As I mentioned, if you have a flat tire one day, does that really have to ruin your entire day? You change the tire or you call AAA, you lose about an hour and a half to 2 hours of your day, and it didn't ruin your entire day. Do you get my point?
Yeah.
Number three, they take care of their physical health. Clint, we've been talking about that. You have to do something such as walking. You must fuel yourself appropriately. They also choose healthy coping skills. So when we say healthy coping skills, it isn't just exercise, but a hobby, even walking. Things that actually help you distance yourself from your current level of stress.
Would you put like making music in there?
100%. That's your hobby. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
100%. Hobby, passion. Look at the podcast you do.
Yeah.
You know, you guys run successful businesses, and you're doing this right now, which is coping. I'm hoping that you haven't thought about the stresses of your current world while we've been sitting here together.
No, but I have thought of something interesting that you said that exists in my world.
Exactly.
And that's when I'm working, I escape work to do something creative.
Yes.
And for me, that's away from work. But to a girl I'm dating or to my family, that's still work to them.
Yep.
So then you have a whole other dimension of, well, this is work and this is life to me.
Yeah.
But then that's a skewed balance in her perspective.
100%.
And
Well,
so
it's anything that's taking time away from what you would be devoting to her.
Exactly. And so that's kind of, and so is your answer to that just to balance in more time or involve her in my creative stuff? Or
100%. So that's a great, God, that's a very accelerated and advanced perspective. So be clear, you're taking it to the next level right now. So we built a compound up in where we live up in the mountains, and as much as I can, I try to force my wife and I to do, she's a fitness guru. As we've gotten older and as she becomes more evolved, women tend to want to do fitness things differently. They focus on different parts of their body, you know, the lower part of the body, the booty. I'm not that interested in working on the booty for an hour and a half, where a girl might be, of course. So we'll do HIIT, high intensity interval training together. I'd say 2 days a week we'll do a workout together. An example I also told her is, hey, she loves the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel program, which is really funny on Amazon Prime. I said, and we have a sauna in the basement. You know, one of those, you jump into a sauna for an hour. Cool. It's again, infrared sauna, part of the health, nutrition.
You spend an hour in there?
I'll do 50 minutes to an hour.
On what temperature?
So the temperature is irrelevant. What I mean by that is this is an infrared sauna. Most saunas you can get up to 210, of course. An infrared sauna only goes as high as 145 to 150, but it penetrates deeper in the skin. So the temperature of it is important, but the penetration... That's what she said.
Yeah, that's
what she said. But the penetration into the skin is actually supposed to be healthier. So I think we get to 150. But it doesn't matter because the infrared penetration is making us sweat and increasing all the white blood cells and just creating so much good in your body. So I said to her, here's an example. I can go into the sauna for an hour tonight, and I watch TV in the sauna, with the Bluetooth and everything. And I said, hey, can we watch Mrs. Maisel tonight? So I'm happy to sit in the sauna by myself, but I'm actually going to stick her next to me for 50 minutes to make sure that I do the sauna with her.
And not only that, but you've integrated something that would interest her
100%
to not only entice her, but for all y'all to enjoy the experience, because you want it to be considered the mutual 100%. Experience.
Yeah, I don't drag her out to too many things. It has to interest her. So I know she's happy to get in the sauna because she wants to. So I try to do sauna time with her, so we're at least together for that hour, even if we're watching the TV or just hanging out together. So integrating your life and her life together, like you said, is so brilliant.
You're creating quality time, whereas you would have been spending it separately.
100%.
Just takes being an entrepreneur.
100%. Last three pieces. The mentally strong to address stress. They balance social activity with solitude. We talked about that. They acknowledge their choices, and they look for the silver lining. And looking for the silver lining was that example I gave earlier with the perspective of I could walk down every day and complain about my life, or I could look at all the good parts of it. So it's all within your control. And as you get older, I could easily take the perspective, if someone isn't happy, how dare you not appreciate all the stuff you have, which is very critical, or maybe I can help you look at things and give you a better set of glasses. And if I can do that, then it makes us have a good relationship, and it kind of brings them up and raises them up.
Absolutely. Man, I can't agree with that more, because I'm big. The way I put that, I think, Sad, does he know? Have you heard of Sadhguru?
Yeah, of course.
Sadhguru. So we listen to him a lot. And one thing he says is, and I've said this on the podcast before, so if you're hearing me say it again, I love it. A fish in water doesn't know it's in water because it's in water, but if you pull it out, it could see what water is, and that's how we get with our realities. We can be that fish stuck in reality and don't know that there's an ulterior way of living.
Yes.
And being able to put yourself out of that and take yourself out of the movie and watch it instead of being in it is super important. Man, this has really been amazing.
This is great.
I think what we should do with these is make them like an IG post.
Yeah.
Like we'll make the list.
Yep.
So look out for these on social media. We'll have these as IG posts. Lee fucking Heisman.
I said yes.
Yeah, I love it.
You know what? I was on the phone with him last night when I was texting you.
It was awesome.
So those words, they came from him.
That's very cool.
Look,
I'm changing my middle name now to that.
Oh,
not R, but
that's
to
what
F.
you said your government name was.
Exactly.
No, God, and this has been amazing. I think the most important thing, like you really came here and covered, like you said, the whole gambit. You really hit everything, and
there was a host of information here. I haven't taken this many notes in a long time.
Yeah, and you didn't only do it, but you gave good information that I can go back and take notes on. But you also told it with good stories.
Yep.
So the context is there and
digestible.
Yeah, and we're gonna do follow up content, and one of the follow up content I think I'd like to do with you is storytelling specifically, where we have this idea where we want to people who have been on the podcast, like some of the better podcasts. We want to go to a day in the life of you and follow you around and get a little deeper and kind of run those as vlogs. So if you're listening, that's a sneak peek of some stuff we may have in the future.
That is awesome. That's kind of scary, man. You wake up in the morning, we get to the compound gym.
You gonna lift?
Dude,
you wake up in the morning, we're already there.
Dude, let me tell you something. That would be, my wife always says that you should do a vlog for a day.
I'll do a lift.
Now, here's an example. This would be the coolest vlog, with all due respect. We wake up, we get a good compound workout, right, which is just cool stuff. From the workout, after we do our coffee and we do some type of smoothie or shake, which is very nutritious and there's all the ingredients in it, we would then go into the ball ground shooting range, which is only about 20 minutes away. Then we do some tactical training and shooting through targets and moving and everything. Then we go, the day would be wide open after that, and we could just put some cool stuff together. So it'd be the coolest vlog day ever.
Let's do it. That
would be badass.
All right, well, whether we start a vlog series or not, you got me calling it a vlog. Whether we start a vlog series or not.
Vlog. I'm old. That's 48. We say
or
vlog.
Or you was, and that's the way to say it. Who knows? But, hey, I do know that that's a great idea, and that's going to be something a lot of people would love to watch because we'll be able to learn a lot, and it's going to be fun. And, man, I want to say that the most important thing I learned from you today is the word considerate is at the forefront of my mind now. And being considerate in everything you do and making your experience better. I mean, making everybody's experience better. But to do that, you have to keep your experience the best possible, whether it's keeping yourself healthy, keeping yourself happy, high frequency. Being able to do that is a battle in itself. And when you've won that battle and you can help, and your light is shining its brightest and you can help others shine their brightest, that's what the word considerate means to me. And so when you say the key to life is to be considerate in life and in business, that totally resonates. I know that'll resonate with everyone listening. If you're catching the end of this, go listen to the beginning and middle. This has been incredible. I know there's multiple pieces of this we're going to be able to cut and clip. Thank you again so much for your time. Man, this has really been amazing. You guys know where to follow us at HSTL UP, www.hstlup.com. We got merch coming soon. We got events coming soon. Tap in, follow us. We have more amazing interviews. I don't even know what category this one's going to be into.
All of them.
All of them,
yep.
Yeah.
Hit the bell, hit subscribe, tell your friends.
You already know
any value from this whatsoever.
Spread the word, spread the love, spread the frequency. You know what it is. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Clint.
Thank you again, Lee. This has been amazing.
You guys are awesome.
Till next time, hustle up.
Hustle up.